Alright, now that everything's sorted out and back on schedule, let's go ahead and get back to what I'm good at. Reviewing anime. Hold on, wait. Alright, yeah, it's another anime. I know I said I would try to not do so much anime, probably, but whatever. If it's furry, it's furry. This time it's special, because today it is Hoov's month. And what is Hoov's month, you may be asking? Well, you see, every reviewer here on YouTube creates their own unique month with a certain theme to it. So, I'm going to dub August as Hoov's month. And why not celebrate my ungulate brethren and kin, whether it be equine, cervine, bovine, rhinocerotidine, you get my point. And to start off this month, let's take a gander at 1978's Chirin no Suzu, known in English as Chirin's Bell, or Ringing Bell. Ringing Bell was made by Sanrio, the company that makes all those Hello Kitties and other cutesy animals you see in any store that caters to Asian culture or little girls. Either way, it makes sense that they would adapt a children's book about a little lamb with a bell around its neck, but what makes this film stand out is that it's about as saccharine and childlike as a Don Bluth film, but even darker and more bleak, while featuring cute, adorable animal characters. And you might be thinking to yourself, why would I let my children watch something that's not 100% happy-go-lucky, where everything turns out fine in the end? You must not be from Japan apparently, because Japan absolutely loved it when it came out. And here in the Western Hemisphere, basically said it might cause emotional trauma to kids. Let's go ahead and look at why. Bear in mind there will be spoilers. So, because this movie is readily available on YouTube, click on the link in the description. I'll give you a couple seconds. Alright, at this point you've either watched the movie or don't care about spoilers, so let's continue. Now the story itself is very fairy tale-like, in that it's more about the moral and allegory than it is about making real-world sense. For example, this film, or the book it's based on actually, doesn't explain why this pasture that it starts out in is nothing but female sheep, with Chirin seemingly being the only ram we know of, or how the collar around Chirin's neck, the one that the bell is ding-a-linging on, doesn't seem to have any wear, stretch, or break even after he grows into an adult ram 3 years later, or, several other small details that would make someone focus on realism scratch their head just a little bit. Speaking as someone who used to only think of stories as whether they were realistic or how many plot holes they had, and not if they told a good story regardless, I don't mind the small plot holes or whatnot as much if they don't hinder the overall product. Though I'm not sure if I excuse everything in the film. Chirin and his mother are still a bit underdeveloped as characters, even after we see Chirin's journey of revenge and transformation into an antagonistic character later on, but then again there wasn't much character given to him in the original book. Speaking of, there was no actual arduous trek of Chirin having to convince the wolf again and again to be his mentor. See, in the book he straight up just says, yeah, sure, okay, let's go wreck some stuff. Go bash your head against the trees and rocks and that'll be fun. I feel like that was needed to show how much Chirin wants to ultimately become stronger, and in a misguided attempt act as a savior for weaker beings. It also doesn't hurt that it pads the movie out to a nice 45-minute TV length either. Two birds in one stone, right? I think another aspect that would drive some people away is the noticeably rough voice acting, although this was anime dubbing in the early 80s. Now, what do I mean by that? Barbara Goodson, voice of Rita Repulsa, Red Fraggle, Mother Talzin, Laharo, and many other roles since the 1980s, also plays Chirin and his mother in this film. Here's what the ADR process was like according to her.
It was very much primitive. We didn't have picture in the beginning, we had seconds. Do it in a certain amount of seconds. And then we got to picture. So I basically cut my teeth in dubbing from the get-go. And from there you got to meet other people that were doing it. And these are friends that I met back in the beginning, and we're still friends today. It's incredible, that little community.
So, while it can be distracting, I'm not going to knock the film for it, because there is still some good delivery despite not quite matching the mouth flaps like you would expect nowadays. The music in this film reminds me of something like The Last Unicorn, with really folky sounding tunes in between to carry on an emotion or some exposition.
Chirin, come and play. Let your dreams carry you away. Hear the bell you love so well that brings you back home.
The singer here is no America, but I guess it gets the job done. I've also got to hand it to the animation and art department for making this film as bleak as its overall morals as well. And there's a special charm to older anime from the 80s and 90s and how they were animated, at least to me, since I see nothing but Toon Boom, Adobe Flash, or Animate, and other digital art programs being used to make anime nowadays. I'm not lamenting this fact. I'm just saying there's something a little bit special about drawing and coloring every cell by hand and making that into 45 minutes of film. Going back to the morals, I'm a little mixed about those, but that's just because of the culture I was brought up in. You see, Japan has always been a more collectivist society, meaning that they focus on the group dynamic more than being an individual. And that reflects inside their media as well. Chirin diverts from the group, trying to be a stronger and more individual being, but ends up becoming the monster he once feared, the one that killed his own mother, mind you. I wouldn't say it adheres against being an individual rather than a scared sheep per se, but it does show a cautionary tale of what happens when you turn a lamb into a wolf, one with previously good intentions now corrupted inside and outside. I don't know, maybe that's just the dumb old American in me, putting my Western perspective on this otherwise Eastern film, but I guess that's what art is all about in the end, your own interpretation.
They all just sat there in the pasture, too scared to go past the fence, too scared to do anything. I don't want to be killed, I want to be strong.
Good. Cry and let the anger out. It's the only way that you're going to grow fangs.
But now comes the more important question. How furry is it? Let's take it through my chance system, a handy rubric I use to break down several aspects of furriness, those being caste, harmony, anthropocentrism, narrative, commonality, and expression. Let's look at caste, or how many story-relevant characters there are. No humans in sight for this film, even though the first third, I would say, takes place in a pasture. Kinda weird how you don't see the farmer or farmers around. But that could always detract from the main focus of the story, which is Chirin and his bleak journey, with a whopping 4 main furry characters in all, and the rest being background characters. I call this a perfect 4 out of 4 for cast. Now for harmony, or how natural anthros and furries are to the setting, I think it's fairly obvious that these characters are natural to their setting. I mean, they're not only real-life animal species, but they're literally in their natural setting as well. And that's aside from Chirin when he decides to venture from his pasture, but overall another 4 out of 4, no doubt about it. Moving on to anthropocentrism, or how close these furries are to being human. All the characters featured in this film are 4-legged aside from the snake and bird featured in one scene. But it seems like only the main characters like the sheep and wolf can actually communicate with each other like people do. Aside from the pasture's guard dogs, it's pretty much mammal-based, or maybe in this story, mammals can easily talk to each other, but not reptiles or avian beings? I don't know. I'll be generous. I'll give it a 2 out of 4. As for narrative, or how key these furries' animal nature is to the narrative, I'd say that getting revenge/guidance from a wolf that killed your sheep mother is rather furry in that regard. Now you could argue that any being, whether human or not, can seek revenge, but the difference here is that Chirin specifically seeks out to become like a wolf, instead of just trying to kick his ass right then and there. Another perfect 4 out of 4 in this case. And next we have commonality, or how prevalent furries are outside of the main cast. Like I said before, there are various animals outside of sheep and wolves that show up in the story. Almost all of them secondary or minor characters that only show up in one scene, actually. I mean, this is based on a kid's book, a rather bleak and dark one at that. Even if they aren't giving any speaking lines per se, they're still non-human, which is another perfect 4 for this category. Finally, we have expression, or how furry they actually look. This is anime, so there are bound to be some stylized features, but the only main stylization, outside of their anthropomorphic nature, is the eyes and the facial expressions. Everything else is pretty much on point. I wouldn't call it a completely realistic depiction of these animals, but it's still a 4 out of 4 in my eyes. A quick tally of the score, and we have a total of 22 out of a possible 24. So far, this is one of the highest furry quality index scores I've given to a piece of media, so props to that. Now, again, would I suggest this to children? Maybe not. I mean, it starts out pretty childlike and friendly and then just goes 0 to 100, and then from 100 to 1,000,000. Okay, maybe not that extreme, but you get what I mean. Overall, if you like a dark fairy tale, dressed up like a kid's movie that slowly devolves into some harsh truths about nature and nonconformity, then I would suggest giving Ringing Bell a viewing, especially since it's free on YouTube, and it's not like you're gonna get it anywhere else. From what I've researched, the US release of this film is out of print and not easy to find, so yeah, stick with YouTube. This has been Gregor Beep Beep I'm a Sheep Reindeer with How Furry Is It? Stick around for more anthro analysis and antler antics. So this is the part of the video where I tell you guys to like, comment, and subscribe, but you probably already know that. Standard procedure and all that. Go ahead and like the video if you liked what you saw. Subscribe if you want to see more. Comment if you have any opinions on this review. And have a good day. I'll see you later.